If you've been wondering how I get ESO to look so good in my videos, this tutorial should help. I'll be sharing all of my video settings I use when playing and recording, along with some tips for visual add-ons like Reshade. Be sure to stick around if you've been struggling to get ESO to look its best. Welcome back, citizens of Tamriel. I'm Cal, and today I'm answering one of the most commonly asked questions that I get here on the channel. How does ESO look so good in my videos? Luckily, it's pretty straightforward, but for anyone out there who's curious, I thought I would go ahead and share all of the details that will hopefully help you to get your game looking great. So first off, you'll want to double check your graphics settings under the video section in the settings of the main menu. Now, I always record with my display mode set to windowed full screen, and I have the graphics quality set to maximum. My resolution is 2560 by 1440, and I record at 60 FPS with no compression. You'll probably want to go through each of these graphics settings to make sure that the maximum quality preset did in fact choose the best option for your PC. Beyond the defaults here, there are actually two adjustments that I make in addition. I found that on my PC, for the anti-aliasing setting, TAA actually looks the best, even better than either of these NVIDIA options. Now, that might not be the case for you, and you might actually have different options under the anti-aliasing menu, so I always recommend to any new player out there to tinker with this a little bit and see what looks best on your rig. Next, I always go up and adjust the gamma. Personally, I think the game looks better when this is actually set a little bit lower than the game recommends. It just helps with the contrast and saturation, and it helps the shadows look a little bit crisper on my machine. To my eyes, things look just a little bit washed out when the gamma is turned up to the recommended levels or above. I think this is probably the one easy trick that's really accessible to anyone to make ESO look just a little bit better. It does mean that some caves and nighttime, of course, will be a little bit darker in-game. Of course, these settings are all dependent on your PC. Now, I've always played on or near max, but after a recent graphics card upgrade, I noticed a lot more detail on armor textures. Now, I'm no expert here, but if you go back and watch my videos from 2024 and then compare them to my latest here in 2025, you'll probably see what I mean. The cloth bits of my character's armor have a noticeable canvas texture, the leather has subtle imperfections and other details. Even with my settings on maximum on my old PC, these details were not noticeable, whereas they are today on the new GeForce RTX 4070 Ti. Another thing that is probably worth mentioning is that I am pretty strategic about where and when and what I record in ESO. The game looks the best during sunrise and sunset, and I tend to avoid recording at night or in dark areas unless there's just no way to avoid it. This ensures that my videos have plenty of ambient light to show off the details, and little things like choosing a good backdrop and making sure that my character is facing towards the main light source, as in this case, can go a long way. On top of all that, you may have noticed I also tend to favor new zones and motifs. ESO is 10 years old after all, and it is understandably starting to show its age in some places. I might love the style of some of the base game zones and motifs, but everything in High Isle and the Westweald is just a higher resolution with higher graphical fidelity and more complex geometry. So don't worry, if you're new or newer to ESO and currently exploring those older base game zones, the new stuff is probably going to look better for you, even if you can't play at max graphics settings. Now finally, while I've never used any visual or graphics mods while recording my videos previously, I do use a number of add-ons that overhaul the interface. And then of course, I hide the interface as much as possible for my videos. I think that this helps the world and the characters shine, but to be fully transparent, there are occasions where I will use filters in my videos. Of course, any general combat or gameplay remains untouched. Now with all that said, there are graphical mods out there, in particular Reshade. And in the past, I've given a number of Reshade presets a chance, but I always found them to be a little bit wanting. However, I did finally find one that I like and I can recommend, and I may actually be using it moving forward. So if you're unfamiliar with Reshade, it's basically LUTs for ESO. Like I mentioned earlier, there are some more aggressive ones out there that mess with the depth of field and add fog effects and all that stuff, which can really change the vibe of ESO and don't necessarily make it look better in my opinion. But I did come across one by Gray Wolf that I really like. All right, let's go ahead and turn on this preset. And now it's pretty subtle here, but this shader preset turns up the saturation and contrast just a little bit, while also adjusting the lighting in a way that makes the textures feel a little bit crisper to me. So if you'd like to try out this Reshade preset for yourself, it's actually pretty simple to install. Just hit the download link in the description to grab the files, open up the zip folder and browse to the Reshade version 5.9.2 folder, grab the 3 files along with the Reshade shaders folder, and drop them all in your client folder. For me, that was under my C drive, program files, x86, ZeniMax Online, The Elder Scrolls Online, Game, Client. By default, the home key will open up the Reshade settings, where I actually turned off 2 of the FX that were included with this pack. This bonus LUT pack here and the Lightroom, I felt were actually not doing a whole lot for me visually while they were washing out the colors a little bit. So I turned those 2 off, and now what we've got is something that I think really improves the default look of ESO just a little bit by punching up those colors, increasing the contrast, and making the textures pop just a little bit more. So let's go ahead and flip it off again here and then back on. And I'll put a comparison here on screen so that you guys can get a look at 2 versions of the game while I'm running around exploring. One other thing I did for this Reshade preset is I tabbed over to settings here and I set an effect toggle key so I could toggle this preset on and off with a single button. And that's it. Just a short video for you all today. I hope this helps anyone out there trying to make ESO look as good as possible. And if you happen to have any other tips or Reshade recommendations, please don't hesitate to share them in the comments below. As always, if you're new around here, don't forget to like and subscribe for more ESO videos. I'd also like to thank my patrons who got early ad-free access to this video over on Patreon. If you'd like to join them and get your name in the credits of the next video as well, you can explore my Patreon linked in the video cards. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.